My name's Adam. I'm 34. And if you asked my family, they'd probably tell you I'm the quiet one, the one who got lucky, the one who doesn't say much but always pays the bill. And for a long time, I let that be true. I've always been low-key, head down, work hard, don't stir the pot. But on my last birthday, something snapped. And I finally realized just how much they took that silence for granted. I'll back up a bit. I run my own business, nothing flashy, mostly commercial real estate. It took me a while to build up, and while it started out of desperation after being laid off in my 20s, I stuck with it. Now it does well. Really well. Enough that I don't worry about money anymore. And enough that, about 5 years ago, I started helping my family out in ways they never really acknowledged but always expected. My parents' mortgage? I quietly started covering it when my dad's health declined and their savings ran out. My older brother, Matt? I co-signed his refinance to keep him from losing his house during his second divorce. My younger sister? I covered her tuition when her scholarship fell through. And I never held it over them. Never asked for thanks. Honestly, I didn't mind. I figured we were family. That's what you do. But lately, things have felt different. It started subtly. Missed calls, canceled plans, birthdays remembered late or not at all. I brushed it off as life getting busy. Then came the excuses. Oh, we didn't think you'd want to come. It was last minute. You're always working anyway. But the truth? They just stopped including me. And yet, the bills kept coming. Can you spot us this month? The furnace went out. We're tight right now, just for a bit. And still, I kept paying. This year, for my 34th birthday, I wanted to do something nice. Not extravagant, just special. I made a reservation at a restaurant I'd been wanting to try for a while. One of those places that makes you feel like it's okay to celebrate yourself. I booked a private table for 10. Sent a group message to my parents, my siblings, a couple cousins. Nothing dramatic, just, would love to see you all. My treat. My mom responded with a thumbs up. My sister said, sounds good. Matt left it on read. I should have known, honestly. The day of the dinner came, and I got ready, put on the nice watch I rarely wear, and showed up a little early, nerves buzzing. I even asked the waiter to hold off bringing drinks until everyone arrived. 5 minutes passed, then 15. At 30 minutes, I checked my phone. One by one, the messages rolled in. Sorry, something came up. Rain check? Can't make it. Traffic's crazy. Kid's not feeling well. And then Matt. No excuse. Just, no one cares. It's just you. I stared at that message for a while. At first, I thought it was a joke. Matt was always blunt. But this? It felt like something more. Cold. Intentional. And what got me the most wasn't the words. It was the fact that, deep down, I wasn't even surprised. I just sat there, alone at a table meant for 10, while a waiter tried not to make eye contact and a couple at the next table whispered, probably wondering what sad story brought a guy to dine alone with 10 empty chairs and a birthday candle waiting to be lit. I stayed for another 10 minutes, ordered a drink, then quietly paid the bill, yes, for all 10 seats, and walked out. Not angry, not crying, just empty. Like I had finally hit the end of something I didn't even know I'd been dragging behind me. I got in the car, sat for a bit, and scrolled through the family group chat. My dad had just sent a meme. My sister was laughing in the comments. No one mentioned the dinner. No one asked if I was okay. That's when it clicked. They didn't forget. They didn't miss it. They just didn't care. Because they assumed I'd always be there. That I'd always pay. Always forgive. Always smile through it. That's when I sent the text. One line. No exclamation point. No anger. Just, let's see how you celebrate without a mortgage. Then I turned off my phone. What they didn't know, what I'd kept quiet about for years, was that every payment I made, every dime I covered, was traceable. Not just traceable, documented. My name was on the accounts. I had power of attorney for my parents, co-ownership of the refinance agreement for Matt, and my sister's tuition was through an education trust once set up under my business. Quiet power. Paper trails. Legal leverage. I hadn't touched it because I never wanted to use it. But that night, as I sat alone in my apartment with the city lights flickering through the window, I opened my laptop, logged into every account, and began. By morning, the mortgage auto payments were canceled. The trust was frozen. The refinance contract was triggered to full repayment terms. The shared family Spotify account? Gone. The Amazon Prime they all piggybacked off of? Canceled. I didn't even feel guilty. Just clear. For the first time in years, my generosity didn't feel like a quiet burden. It felt like power. At 6:12 a.m., the voicemail started. First, my mom. Sweetie, something's wrong with the mortgage account. Can you check? Then my dad. Hey, I think we got hacked. Then my sister. Are you awake? My card's getting declined and finally, Matt. No greeting. Just, you're being dramatic. Fix it. And I didn't answer. I didn't even listen to the rest. I just let the messages pile up, one after another. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something unfamiliar creeping up my spine. Not guilt. Not regret. Something sharper. Freedom. And just when I thought they might finally understand what they had done, just when I thought the silence might settle in long enough for them to really feel it, my phone lit up with one more notification. A message from Matt. And it said, wow, you're really gonna do this to your own family over some dinner party pity tantrum? Grow up. I stared at it. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the audacity had reached a point where it was almost impressive. There it was, in black and white, the unshakable belief that no matter what they did, I owed them. That my silence meant submission. That being the quiet one also meant being the doormat. I didn't reply. I just put the phone down and made myself breakfast. Bacon, eggs, the works. Played music on my speakers, brewed coffee in silence. It was weird how calm I felt. Like a fog had finally lifted. The apartment was quiet, but it wasn't lonely, it was peaceful. I hadn't realized how much of my energy was spent managing their messes, waiting for the next ask, the next guilt trip. No, nothing. Just quiet. Around noon, I opened my email. That's when the panic started trickling in. First, a message from my parents' bank. My dad had tried to reset the auto payment settings and called the branch when he couldn't. He hadn't realized that I had full control as power of attorney. They wouldn't let him make changes without my sign-off. The email was polite but clear. They needed to speak with me. Then one from the college bursar's office. My sister's tuition payment had bounced. Her spring semester balance was flagged for collections if not paid in the next 10 business days. The trust I'd set up had been their safety net, and now it was frozen. Locked until I chose to reopen it. And then, this one really got me, a message from Matt's mortgage company. Because I was still listed as a co-borrower, any changes to the agreement had to go through me. And without my income factored in, his refinancing terms would collapse. Fast. They were strongly recommending immediate resolution. They were unraveling. Fast. That night, my mom called 6 times. Then my dad. Then both of them on speaker. I didn't answer. I didn't feel the need to. I sat in the dark, sipping whiskey, listening to the quiet hum of the city and watching their names pop up and disappear. And then, at around 10:47 p.m., my phone buzzed with a message from my mom that just said, please. I still didn't respond. Because I realized something, sitting there in that quiet apartment, that please wasn't about me. It wasn't about understanding, or regret, or even love. It was desperation. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were just scared of losing the things I provided. Scared that, maybe for the first time, their words didn't work anymore. 2 days passed. I took a long walk. Treated myself to a movie. Didn't answer a single call. By the 3rd morning, my voicemail inbox was full. I checked a few just for curiosity. My dad, trying to sound firm but clearly unraveling. Adam, this is ridiculous. You've made your point. Now let's fix this. Matt, sounding like he was recording it mid-rage troll. You seriously think you're better than us now? You think you can just walk away from your family? You're pathetic. My sister, near tears. I might get dropped from school, Adam. I don't have anyone else. Please, just talk to me. And that's when I finally replied. Not a call. Just a single message in the family group chat. All I asked was for one dinner. Silence. Then another message. You made your priorities clear. Now I'm making mine. That was it. Nothing more. I left it at that. But the real shift happened later that night. I got a text, not from my family, but from someone I hadn't expected. My cousin Rachel. We'd always been cool, but she mostly kept to herself. She wasn't part of the mortgage mess or the tuition trust. She wrote, hey, I know things are crazy right now, but I just want to say I'm sorry. I didn't know how much they were leaning on you. I should have shown up to that dinner. That was wrong. Let me know if you ever want to get lunch. It wasn't dramatic, just real. And for the first time, I felt seen. I texted back, told her I appreciated it. We set a time for that weekend. As for the rest of them, the silence grew louder. They stopped calling as much, though I'd still get the occasional guilt text from my mom or a passive-aggressive meme from Matt. But I didn't budge. The payments remained canceled. The locks on my financial boundaries stayed changed. And slowly, the balance of power shifted. One evening, maybe a week after the birthday, I walked past the restaurant where I'd sat alone. Same table was set for 10. Someone else's celebration now. And I realized something important. You can't force people to value you. But you can stop funding their disrespect. And that's when my phone buzzed again. Another call. Another voicemail. This time, it wasn't begging. It was a threat. Matt's voice, low and sharp. You think this is over? You think you can just mess us over and walk away? You have no idea what you've started. I listened to the message twice. Then I hit save. Because if they wanted to escalate, I was done being the quiet one. I didn't respond to Matt's voicemail. Not right away. I wanted to, but I knew better. You don't interrupt someone while they're digging their own grave. Let them tire themselves out. Let them show you just how ugly they're willing to get. Then you make your move. 3 days passed before I heard from him again. I assumed maybe he'd cooled off. Maybe they all had. I was wrong. It was a Friday afternoon when I stepped out of a client meeting and found my phone lighting up with notifications, texts, voicemails, and one email with the subject line, "Legal action pending." My heart didn't even skip a beat. I just stood on the sidewalk, pulled out my phone, and opened the email. It was from some low-budget local attorney Matt must have scraped up. The kind of guy who still used AOL and typed in all caps. The message was full of bluster, accusations that I had fraudulently seized control of family finances, that I was causing emotional and financial harm, and that if I didn't reinstate all payments within 48 hours, they'd be forced to pursue civil remedy. I almost laughed. It was so sloppy, so desperate. And yet, there was something about it that twisted in my stomach. Not fear. Disgust. Because I realized, with crystal clarity, that this wasn't about hurt feelings anymore. It wasn't even about family. This was about entitlement and punishment. Matt thought if he threw enough threats at me, I'd break. Like always. I didn't. Instead, I forwarded the email to my lawyer, Brian. Brian's the type of guy who doesn't blink. I've known him since I incorporated my first company. He reviewed the message, chuckled over the phone, and said, "Adam, this guy's barking with a paper leash. You've done everything by the book. If anything, we could sue them for harassment." I thanked him and hung up. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something I hadn't expected to feel, pity. Matt was unraveling in real time. And he wasn't alone. My mom had started calling again too, this time with a syrupy voice, pretending nothing had happened. She left a voicemail saying she was worried about me, asking if I was okay mentally, and then softly dropping the phrase, "Dad's health has been rocky lately. We could really use your support again." Right. Support. That old favorite word. Then came the Facebook posts. Matt posted a status. Funny how money changes people. One day they're your brother, the next they're your bank. And when the bank closes, you see the truth. My sister commented under it with a broken heart emoji. My mom shared it with a caption about loving your children no matter what, even when they hurt you. They weren't trying to fix things. They were trying to control the narrative. Paint me as the selfish one, the villain, the one who turned his back on his family. And they knew I wouldn't defend myself publicly because I never had. They were counting on me staying silent. So I changed the rules. That night, I didn't post a long rant. I didn't name names. I simply shared a screenshot of my original group message, the birthday dinner invitation, dated and timestamped, and wrote, "I asked for one dinner. They asked for my life. Nothing more." The comments exploded. Friends, old classmates, even extended cousins started chiming in. "Wait, this is about that dinner? That's cold. Didn't even show up for his birthday and now they're crying for help?" People only remember who paid, not who paid attention. I didn't say anything else. I didn't need to. The silence from my family after that post was louder than any voicemail. And then, something shifted. Rachel, my cousin, messaged me again. She'd seen the post. She wanted to meet for that lunch after all. We picked a quiet spot downtown, nothing fancy, just casual. When we sat down, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're not crazy. You've been carrying them for years. And I think they're terrified that you finally put them down." I didn't expect that. I don't think I even realized how badly I needed someone, anyone, to say that out loud. I nodded. Didn't trust myself to speak. She added, "They're trying to shame you into being useful again. But you don't owe them the pieces of yourself they broke." That line stuck with me. And it helped when, the next day, my dad finally called. He never called. Ever. When I picked up, there was a long pause before he said, Hey, Adam. I waited. He sighed. Your mother's in a state. Says you've gone cold. That you're punishing us. Is that true? I wanted to scream. Instead, I asked calmly, did you know what Matt said about my birthday? Another pause. He cleared his throat. Matt says a lot of things. That's not an answer. He got defensive. Look, your brother's going through a tough time. 2 divorces, child support, his business. And I've helped with all of that. Quietly. For years. I know, he said quickly. And we appreciate it. No, you don't. You expect it. And when I finally ask for one evening, a couple hours of acknowledgement, you all disappear. His voice got low, tired. We didn't think it was a big deal. Exactly. That was the point. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said, I need time, Dad. And space. And you all need to figure out how to live without my credit card attached to your lives. He muttered something I didn't catch. Then, so that's it. For now, I said. Yeah. I hung up. And that should have been it. A pause. A silence. A reset. But it wasn't. Because the next morning, I got a notification from the refinance bank. Meta tried to remove me from the loan. Illegally. And now they were contacting me with documents, flagged transactions, and a warning. If this continues, we will be forced to pursue legal action against both parties. So Matt wanted to play hardball. Fine. He just forgot who paid for the gloves. I didn't get angry when I saw the bank's message. I didn't slam the laptop shut or start pacing the apartment like I might have in the past. I just sat still, read the message twice, then leaned back in my chair. The audacity wasn't surprising anymore. It was routine. But this time, Matt had crossed a legal line. He wasn't just lying or guilt-tripping or whining. He had tried to falsify documentation and remove me from a binding agreement that, legally, tied both of us to his mortgage. And I had receipts. Years of them. That night, I called Brian again. My lawyer didn't even sound surprised when I explained what happened. He tried to forge your signature? Brian asked. Tried. The bank flagged it before anything could go through. Brian exhaled slowly. Then it's not just fraud, it's attempted fraud. We can build a solid case here. You ready to go forward? I hesitated, not because I had doubts, but because I still, somewhere deep down, wished it hadn't come to this. This wasn't some random scammer. It was my brother, my family, people I grew up with. But over the past few years, especially this last month, they'd proven one thing consistently. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as a wallet. And the second that wallet said no, they stopped pretending. I took a breath. Let's do it. Brian got to work. Within a week, he filed a cease and desist letter against Matt and his lawyer. The bank froze all activity on the refinance agreement pending an internal investigation. And once they saw the forged documents and compared them to the originals I had on file, signed, dated, notarized, they cut ties with Matt completely. The loan was voided. And because I had agreed to co-sign only under the premise of joint control, his attempt to remove me without consent was a breach of the agreement. In short, the bank pulled out. Fully. And they didn't just reassign the loan. They foreclosed. Matt lost the house. He tried calling me 12 times in one day. Left voicemails switching between rage, begging, insults, and finally, pathetic lines like, "You didn't have to go this far, man." But I never answered. I never replied. And I never felt guilty. Because I hadn't gone too far. I had only matched the distance he was willing to go when he thought I'd never push back. The fallout didn't stop with Matt. My parents were next. See, once Matt's mess made waves, it triggered a full financial domino effect. My parents had no backup plan. I had been covering their mortgage for so long they had forgotten how to budget without it. And when their automatic deductions stopped, their credit tanked. They started falling behind. Fast. I knew this not because they told me, but because I still had access to their account statements through the power of attorney they had signed years ago. They had handed me full control when Dad got sick, and they never revoked it. Now, as the bank sent warnings and late payment notices, I could see everything. They tried to sell their car, then their furniture. Then they started pulling small amounts from retirement, hoping to float just long enough for me to come around. I didn't. Instead, I drafted a formal letter through Brian, revoking my power of attorney and severing all legal and financial ties with them. I attached a detailed summary of the payments I had made over the years: mortgage, utilities, credit cards, even small things like groceries and medication, and wrote plainly, "This is what I gave. This is what I got in return. We're even now. I didn't mail it. I left it on their front doorstep, in a sealed envelope, with a copy of the birthday dinner invite tucked inside. 2 days later, I got a text from my mom. Just one word. Why? I didn't respond, but I did finally block their numbers. Not out of anger, not even out of revenge. I did it for peace. I think that's what most people misunderstand about walking away. It's not always about getting back at someone. Sometimes, it's about preserving what little of yourself you have left. And I had given so much of myself, my time, my money, my silence, my energy, that I didn't even realize I was running on fumes. Until I stopped. And suddenly, I could breathe again. A month passed. Then two. Life got quiet. Blissfully so. I started going to the gym again. Reading more. I reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with. I even started seeing someone. Someone who didn't know anything about the drama. Just someone who laughed at my jokes and listened when I talked and didn't expect anything more from me than my time and honesty. It felt strange. It felt real. But the real shift came on a random Thursday, while walking downtown, when I bumped into Rachel again. She was with a friend and introduced me with a grin. This is Adam, the guy who finally stood up for himself. We laughed, but it stuck with me. That's who I had become. Not just the guy with the money. Not the quiet one. The guy who finally said enough. And that mattered more than anything. Matt, as far as I know, moved back in with an old college buddy and was trying to rebuild. My sister dropped out of school and took a job at a local boutique. My parents, well, I heard from a cousin that they're renting now, somewhere on the other side of town. I don't know the details. I don't want to, because I'm not their safety net anymore. And they're not my responsibility. My birthday this year, I didn't book a table. I didn't invite anyone. I went to a beachside cabin for the weekend with someone who actually cared. We drank wine, grilled steaks, and watched the sun dip behind the waves in silence. And for the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel guilty for celebrating myself. I didn't feel selfish. I felt free. So yeah, that was the year I lost my family and found myself. And I'd make that trade again in a heartbeat.